Star Wars The Force Awakens is finally here, and the original Hollywood blockbuster continues to generate huge amounts of hype and record-breaking audiences. In fact, Star Wars is such a huge force in theaters, it's hard to imagine any other movie trying to compete with the box office behemoth. This year, the Tina Fey and Amy Poehler comedy Sisters, the Bruce Willis action vehicle Extraction, and a new Alvin and the Chipmunks movie will try to serve as counter-programming and cater to different audiences than the space opera. Let's take a look back at the movies that tried to stand toe-to-toe with episodes 1 through 6 and see how they fared. Stories of the original Star Wars release are legendary. The production was marred with disaster, and the original release date of Christmas 1976 was pushed due to post-production delays. In fact, 20th Century Fox was concerned about the new May 25th release, as it fell in the same week as another action-packed classic, Smokey and the Bandit. We all know how successful Star Wars went on to become, but Smokey and the Bandit was no slouch either. It was the second highest grossing film that year, and established Burt Reynolds and Sally Field as major movie stars. By 1980, studios had learned their lesson. Movies that launched against The Empire Strikes Back were intended to give audiences an alternative to the action, science fiction, and spectacle that was Star Wars. These alternatives included the Gong Show movie and Carney starring Gary Busey and Jodie Foster. The most notable release that week had a slow start at the box office, and despite opening to mixed reviews and earning Stanley Kubrick a Razzie Award for Worst Director, through word of mouth and a compelling performance by its star Jack Nicholson, The Shining went on to become a horror classic that's managed to live on in the nightmares of generations. By the May 25, 1983 release of Return of the Jedi, studios knew to stay out of the way of Star Wars. The only other release that week was Chained Heat, a prison film starring the exorcist Linda Blair. Unfortunately, the combination of violence, sleaze, and sexploitation didn't stand a chance against one golden bikini. Another notable release from the previous week was Space Hunter: Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, an obvious attempt to cash in on the success of the other big sci-fi release that month. This Ivan Reitman-produced film featured an up-and-coming star that would make a name for herself the following year in 16 Candles, Molly Ringwald. By the summer of 1999, fans were in a fervor for another Star Wars film, and while Phantom Menace may have been a bit of a letdown to many fans, it was still a huge success at the box office, smashing several records in its debut. Not surprisingly, studios stayed out of the way of Star Wars' return to the big screen, and the only major release that weekend was The Love Letter, a romantic comedy starring Tom Selleck, Ellen DeGeneres, and Kate Capshaw. May 2002 was a big month for blockbusters. In fact, Attack of the Clones was ultimately overshadowed by that month's earlier release, Spider-Man. However, it owned the second half of the month. The week of release, studios once again went the counter-programming route with About a Boy, a dramatic comedy starring Hugh Grant and a young Nicholas Hoult, the future, or is it future past, Hank McCoy, aka Beast. By the 2005 release of Revenge of the Sith, studios had either given up or chosen to place their bets on different weekends. Regardless, there were no major releases that week with which to compete. Overall, it was still a huge month for movies, with the release of Oscar-winning Crash, Ridley Scott's epic Kingdom of Heaven, Jet Li's Unchained, the first Madagascar, and 2 sports comedies, Will Ferrell's Kicking and Screaming, and the Adam Sandler remake of The Longest Yard. For more videos and information about Star Wars and everything else you love, visit wikia.com.